Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. I'm the Book Geek, also known as Kiava, and today I'm going to show you my Stephen King collection. Now, if you don't know, Stephen King's birthday was this month. It was on September 21st. I wanted to do this video and get it out to you guys on his actual birthday, but I'm always a day late and a dollar short. Be patient with me, guys. I'm a single mom, I'm homeschooling, and I'm a college student. So I can't always get my videos out when I want to get them out. But it's never too late to talk about horror books. My collection is small compared to some other people's collections that I have seen, but nevertheless, it is a collection. I have a good amount of books here. First, I'm going to show you all of my Stephen King books, and then I'm going to show you all of my Stephen King inspired merch, like this shirt that I have on, this fantastic Carrie shirt. I will leave the link down below of where I purchased this shirt and some of these other items. Let's get started. I'm so excited to do this video. I love Stephen King. The first book I have to show you is The Tommyknockers. So this book was first published in 1987, and then it was published again by a publishing company in 1993. In this book, there is a strange metal object that is buried in part of this town. And people in the town start to develop powers. There's something evil and sinister happening in this town, and it's taken over the minds and hearts of the people who live in this town. The next book I'm going to show you is Dreamcatcher. This is supposed to be one of King's worst books, but I just can't help myself. Whenever I see a Stephen King book, I just have to have it in my collection. This one was first published in 2001. It is about some strange creatures. They may be aliens or something else that invades this town, and these four childhood friends, I believe it's four of them, they get trapped within the quarantine zone of where this invasion is happening. Ironically enough, these four friends that are trapped within the quarantine zone share a link to their pasts that can help put an end to all this chaos. There's so much happening in this story. I did watch the movie. I like the idea of the movie, but I hear that this book is really just really out there and not some of his greatest work. Either way, I'm going to read it. I'm interested to find out how it plays out in the book. The next book I'm going to show you is one of my favorites so far. I have read this book. It's one of my favorite horror movies as well. You should know because I'm wearing her on my shirt, and that is Carrie. I fucking love this book. It is one of my favorite horror books. Originally, the story goes that King actually threw this story that he was writing in the trash, and his wife, Tabitha, I believe that's her name, his wife pulled the story out of the trash, and I'm so very glad that she did, and she encouraged him to keep writing and follow through with it. And I'm so grateful to her for that, because this became one of my favorite books, and the movie adaptation starring Sissy Spacek is one of the best. So in this book, we have a young girl named Carrie White. She has telekinesis powers, and she is being bullied at school, like extremely bullied. And so some people decide to play a prank on Carrie at prom, and all hell breaks loose. The movie does not show the amount of destruction that Carrie caused after the prom incident. This book really put things into perspective. This book was first published in 1974. If you've never read a Stephen King book before and you don't know where to start, I'd say start with Carrie. It is a fairly short book. It is easy to read, and it will not let you down. The next book I'm going to show you is The Body. This one was a short story that was published in a short story collection. I believe different seasons. It might have been featured in different seasons by Stephen King. They started separating some of the short stories into their own individual book, and that is why I have this version of the book. I absolutely love this cover also. This one was first published in 1982. This is the story of 4 young boys who go on an adventure on a search for a body of a boy who was killed by a train. And then along the way, you know, they explore their friendship, and they find out the cruel nature of the world. One thing about Stephen King, even though he's known for being a horror writer, not all of his books are horror. And even his horror books have deeper elements sprinkled in there, like this one. There is a movie adaptation called Stand By Me that focuses on this book, on this story. The next book I'm going to show you is one that I'm going to be reading for the first time, hopefully before this year ends, as one of the horror books that I plan to read during the month October. But if I cannot get to it in October, I really have to get to it before the end of the year. It has been on my TBR for way too long, and that book is The Mist. This book is also one of my favorite Stephen King movie adaptations that they've made. In this book, a strange, thick mist comes into this town and settles in this town. But along with the mist comes these strange, menacing creatures, and they start to terrorize the people in this town. We have our main character, David, and his young son, who happened to be at this particular grocery store when the mist came into town. And they get trapped in the grocery store along with a host of other people, and things just start to go crazy. I love this story because it shines a light on how quickly things can unravel and how quickly humanity can unravel. I mean, we saw that firsthand during the beginning stages of the pandemic here in America. People were fighting over toilet paper and other essential items in the grocery stores. People were hoarding it, and price gouging was going on. And we saw how crazy things could get when the natural order of things starts to get rattled a little bit. And so Stephen King dives into that aspect, because although we have these monsters outside, the real monsters were the people inside this grocery store, because they did some terrible, horrific things. And it's like, who's the real monsters here? I love that. I love how in this book, Stephen King puts people's morals under the microscope. This book was published 2007. The next book I'm going to show you is one that I just recently purchased. I was so happy to finally have this book in my collection, because I have the sequel to this book, but I didn't have the first part of this book. And it is also a book that I am dying to read, and also another one of my favorite Stephen King movie adaptations, and that book is The Shining. I hear this book is extremely creepy, and it is way better than the movie. In this story, we have a family that moves into this hotel. Jack Torrance is supposed to be the caretaker of the hotel for the winter, and him and his family, they go here, you know, to fulfill this job. Strange things start to happen at the Overlook Hotel. This is not just any hotel. It's basically a ghost story, as this place is haunted and causes some possession, and, you know, things are moving on their own. It is creepy, I hear. I hear that this is King at his best, and I can't wait to read this one. The Shining, by the way, was published in 1980. The next one is Thinner. This one was published in 1996, and Stephen King wrote this under the pseudonym Richard Bachman. Richard Bachman and Stephen King are one and the same. That's a pen name. But anyway, this book is about an overweight man. Billy is his name. He's an attorney with a lot of connections. And so when he commits a crime, vehicular manslaughter, he hits someone and kills someone, he basically gets a slap on the wrist due to his, profession and standing. And so the father of the woman that he killed puts a curse on him, basically. And this man begins to get thinner and thinner and thinner until there's almost nothing left of him. This next one that I'm going to show you is, yet again, another one of my favorite movies. I watch this movie every year. Every year. Every time this movie comes on, I watch it. But now that, we got digital streaming and whatnot, we can watch these movies whenever we feel like it. So every October, I watch this movie. And that is Christine. This is one of my favorite movies. I have not read this book yet. I'm ashamed to say. I need to read this book. It is a chunker. A lot of Stephen King books are big. But this book is basically about an evil car. So this young man buys this old car, fixes it up, and he starts to have a strange attachment to the car. And the car seems to be changing him, changing his behavior. And the car actually becomes very jealous of its owner's friends and the company he keeps. And basically this car will stop at nothing to be its owner's only love. It does not want to share its owner with anyone else. And if you piss Christine off, there will be hell to pay. Christine was first published in 1983. The next one is Dolores Claiborne. These are used books, by the way. This piece just came right off. Like I said, I love a well-loved book. I got this book at the used bookstore. I want to show you guys the inside. Isn't that neat? So Dolores Claiborne is basically the story of a woman giving a monologue about her life and the suspicious circumstances surrounding the deaths of certain individuals in her life, including that of her husband and of her employer. I don't know too much about Dolores Claiborne. This one was first published in 1992. This next book was first published in 1982, and that is At Pupil. This one also has a film adaptation. This is the story about a young boy. He's supposed to be an At Pupil, good grades, wholesome family. And he discovers the past about a certain man in this neighborhood. And he starts to intrude on this man's life because he wants to know more about his dark and evil past. By, invading this man's personal life and bringing up his past, it sort of awakens something in this man who turns out to be a Nazi. The next book on the list is Rose Madder. I haven't read this one yet, but I hear this one is brutal. I hear that it has some intense scenes of abuse, and I'm not even quite sure exactly what this book is about. It was published in 1995. I know that this woman is in an abusive relationship, though. I do know that. So I need to read this book. I need to find out what it's about. I buy Stephen King books, even if I don't know what they are about, because they're written by Stephen King. The next one is Mr. Mercedes. This one is about a serial killer and the detective that is hot on his trail. This book was published 2014, and it is part of a trilogy. Stephen King is just one of the writers of this next book, and that is Black House. Peter Straub, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. He's also a co-author on this book that helped create the Talisman novels. This book is part 2 to the Talisman. I believe this book deals with parallel universes. So as I have not read the first one, I can't even really tell you what this one is about. It is the sequel. Our main character Jack in this story had to travel to a parallel universe 20 some odd years ago, and now he's worried that some of the things that are taking place in the world today are related to the events that occurred 20 something years ago. So I read some reviews on this one, spoiler-free reviews on this one, and most of them were great reviews. People giving this book 5 stars, raving about it. This one and the first one, they say that King created a fantastic world in this book. I'm interested to see what this whole Talisman series is about. This one was published in 2001. The next one I'm going to show you has recently been adapted into a film, and that is Dr. Sleep. This is the sequel to The Shining. This one was published in 2013. In this book, we are reintroduced to the little boy Danny from the first one, except now he is an adult. Danny, if you don't know, has the gift of The Shining, and is some sort of psychic, telepathic ability. He is going to have to try and save a young girl who also has the shining gift from a group of evil immortals who have been living off the steam that children with this gift, the shining, produce. It sounds crazy, I know. I have not seen the movie yet either. The next one is Geralts Game. This one was first published in 1992. This one is also a film that you can find on Netflix. In this book, we have a married couple who is trying to spice up their marriage. They go out to this lake house for a little tryst, and he decides to tie his wife up to the bed. He handcuffs her to the bed, trying to get kinky, and he dies while she is handcuffed, and there's no one else around. She's all alone, so she thinks, and she is basically strapped to this bed for most of the story. This is more about psychological fear, the dangers that lurk inside her mind. Okay, so this next one, I was so excited about the idea of this story, the premise of this story. This plot sounded amazing, and that is Sleeping Beauties by Stephen King and Owen King. It is a chunker. Look how big this book is. You can hurt somebody with this book. I got this book for $4. $4 when it was brand new. And so I just had to pick it up, and I have not read it yet. But in this story, there is some type of sleeping curse that is affecting the women of the world. So when the women go to sleep, they get wrapped in a sort of like cocoon. And if this cocoon-like state of theirs is disturbed, then the women become violent and feral. But there's one woman who is immune to this curse or anomaly, and you know, it's like she's left alone in a world full of men who probably are going insane without the women. So it's kind of like one of those other stories that's going to test the humanity of people. I'm so interested in this. Are they going to try and kill her? Are they going to try and rape her, since all the other women are asleep and these men have not been getting their needs, their sexual desires tended to? Like, there's so much that can go into this, and I'm sure Stephen King is going to dive into that. One thing I love about Stephen King is that he is not afraid to let his characters go through some trauma. He will batter the fuck out of his characters, and sometimes you need that. You need to pull that emotion out of people, and I love that about him. He's not afraid to kill the characters, to batter them, to make them feel it, to make them go through it in order for us, the reader, to feel it. This one was published 2017. One of King's newest books, The Outsider. I love this cover, by the way. This one was published in 2018. There is an unspeakable crime that takes place in this town, and all evidence points to this one particular man. He is promptly arrested, but of course, because this is a Stephen King novel, things are not that simple. There are some terrifying secrets and answers that begin to emerge surrounding this case. This next book, I have no idea what it's about. The synopsis is pretty vague, and I'm trying not to read the reviews. That book is Elevation. It is such a little tiny little story. It's another one of King's most recent books. This one was published 2018. In this story, there is a lesbian couple living next door to our main character, Scott. And I don't know what the horror aspect is of this book, if this one even has a horror aspect, because like I said, Stephen King does not only write about horror, but I just don't know what the fuck this book is about. Of course, I bought it because it said Stephen King on the cover, and it was only $4. The next one is Gwendys Button Box. This is by Stephen King and Richard Scheismar. In this book, the young girl Gwendy becomes in possession of this box. Someone or something gives her this box for safekeeping. And so she reaps all sorts of rewards for safeguarding this box and keeping it safe, keeping its content safe. She's going to reap all kind of rewards for doing that, but it supposedly comes with a heavy price. This one was published 2017. This next book is a collection of short stories, and that is The Bazaar of Bad Dreams. I'm actually halfway through this. Every once in a while, I'll pick up this book and read a few stories from it. Now we are getting down to the last of my books. This next one that I want to talk about is one that I have to get to this year. I just have to. Pet Cemetery. This is a first edition. This book was first published in 1983, and most of us are aware of the story Pet Cemetery because we've seen the movie. Not the most recent one that came out, but the older movie is one of my favorite horror movies, but it still frightens the hell out of me. Pet Cemetery scared the shit out of me. The movie scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. So I don't watch it all the time. I hear that the book is 10 times scarier. I always hear people say that this book is terrifying. In this book, we have a family. They move out into the country and they live alongside a road that is very busy with tractor trailers and people speeding up and down their road. And so their young child, is struck by a truck. The child wanders out into the road and he is struck by one of these speeding trucks and he dies. And the father buries him in the pet cemetery. Well, beyond the pet cemetery. And things that get buried there don't stay dead. They come back. And that is exactly what happens. And it is freaking terrifying. I hear the book is 10 times more scarier than the movie. And so I want to read it. I'm scared. But at the same time, I am highly anticipating it. I'm so excited to get to it. I need to read this one this year. Okay, so we are down to the last book, but I have 3 books here related to the last book. So the first thing I'm going to show you is this collection I have. You guys don't know this about me, but this last book, I am obsessed with the story. I am obsessed with the characters. I am obsessed with the villain. I love this freaking book. I love this freaking movie. And that is it. I am obsessed with this story. I freaking love it. I think Stephen King created such a masterpiece when he created it. And this is just a little collection, you know, of the world of it. You know, you get to see all these background stuff from the movie, and it's just, oh my God, it's just incredible. It's just so, it's so incredible. I am like obsessed with this book. I don't let anybody touch this book. I mean, look at that. Look at that. Look at that incredible artwork. Stephen King created such a masterpiece with it. I am so fascinated by this story and this creature. I have this copy of it, which I'm trying to collect different versions, different editions, and different copies of it. So if you don't know, which I don't know how you wouldn't know, but if you don't know, by the slight chance you do not know, it is about a killer clown who preys on the fears of people, and he can shapeshift into your worst fear. And he has been, you know, terrorizing the people in this town for generations, and he comes around every 27 years to feed. His most famous form to take is of Pennywise the dancing clown, but this thing is anything but a freaking clown. The Losers Club consists of some young kids that come face to face with Pennywise, and they try to defeat it. And it's just a fantastic story. Really, it's incredible. I just had to have it in my collection. And then of course I have this version. I have a lot of it merchandise to show you guys as well. So let me just get to that. But yes, this is my pride and joy. This is my baby here. I've seen plenty of the movies that were adapted from Stephen King books, but I don't own that many. So the few that I do own are 1408, The Mist. I also have Carrie. I also recently purchased Pet Sematary, the remake. Of course, I have it. Of course, I have a couple of buttons that I picked up. I do collect buttons and pins. I also have this fantastic cup. I also have this fantastic Pennywise hat that I can't put on my head right now because of my hairstyle that I have currently. I also have this amazing Pennywise doll. He speaks. I recently purchased this amazing book sleeve. It's a mini book sleeve. Last year on my birthday, my oldest son, he's a very talented artist. He drew me this picture of Pennywise for my birthday. I purchased this amazing art print, Tales from Derry. I had to have it. This one hangs on my wall. It's already in a plastic sleeve. And oh my God, I had to have this. It's the movie poster. I have several Stephen King inspired bookmarks. So let's get started. And last but not least, this is an actual paper doll bookmark of the author himself, Stephen King. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed my content, please go ahead and subscribe. Don't forget to like this video as well. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.